Luma Bonny was a young woman of only 23 years old when everything happened in November 2022, in Pará, Brazil. She was the daughter of Lucila Bonny and Boni Monteiro, founders of one of the largest gym chains in the region. Her father was also a sponsor of international fighting events, supporting renowned fighters. Luma had two sisters, Luara and Malu, and the three were very close. Luma was known for being an intense and artistic person, with multiple talents. She was a model, photographer, voice actress, influencer, and actress. She starred in a Brazilian movie called Atina and had a notable presence on social media. Her followers identified with her and loved her, sharing personal stories. Luma also had a boyfriend, a musician she lived with. Their relationship was peaceful, but they had a disagreement in the second week of November, which led to their separation for a few days. It was at this time that the tragedy with Luma occurred. Luma, who was a young and vibrant woman, ended up being a victim of a man who was inherently evil, someone who did something unforgivable to her, leading her to no longer even feel the desire to live. On November 6th, Luma met a man named Maurício César Mendes Rocha Filho, aged 25. Maurício César was the son of Maurício Rocha, a successful broker, and they lived in a luxurious condominium. The young man was known for his seductive behavior and the desire to showcase his life on social media. He always posted his collection of cars, mansions, and money in his account, seemingly unsure of what to do with it all. However, all this ostentation was nothing more than a facade. Maurício had an extensive criminal record, including offenses such as defamation, insult, threats, domestic violence, and dissemination of pornographic material. Additionally, there were several requests for protective measures and lawsuits for material damages against him. Despite all this, the young man always counted on the support of his family, who took responsibility for his offenses. As mentioned, due to the disagreement with her boyfriend, Luma had turned to alcohol to try to forget everything. It was at this moment that she received a message from Maurício, who persistently pressured her to meet him at a party at his family's estate. Luma was clearly intoxicated, as evidenced by audio messages she sent to her friends, in which she reported Mauricio's insistence that she attend this party. Unfortunately, she ended up accepting the invitation and went to the estate where he was. There, Maurício recorded and shared several videos with her on his social media, even though he noticed she was already disoriented. The man bought more alcoholic drinks using Luma's card. Furthermore, Maurício gave Luma a hallucinogenic drug that left her completely vulnerable. Around 5 p.m., Luma asked to leave, and Maurício promised to take her to her grandmother's house. However, he claimed he needed to stop at his house first to get a backpack. In her vulnerable state, Luma agreed. She was taken to Mauricio's house, where his mother, grandmother, brother, and grandmother's caretaker were present. Everyone noticed that Luma was disoriented and visibly drunk, but did nothing to help. She was led to a room where she became a victim of sexual violence, being unconscious during the act. Maurício recorded the entire act, exposing Luma's vulnerability. Later, he left her at her grandmother's house in a building in the city center and departed. Immediately after leaving her at home, Maurício began threatening Luma by sending messages, stating that he would post their intimate video on social media. He demanded a payment of 2.500 reais, approximately $500, to not disclose the footage. Desperate and unsure of what to do, Luma did not contact anyone else except her grandmother, to whom she asked for the amount. As she did not explain the reason, her grandmother refused the request. Between November 7th and 8th, Luma was in a state of despair, reluctant to share with anyone what was happening. Unfortunately, Maurício was accustomed to committing such acts, and when he did not receive payment from Luma, he indeed posted her video on the internet. As mentioned earlier, he was involved in several crimes of this nature and others. In 2018, there was an occasion when Maurício was driving at high speed in a residential neighborhood near a school when he collided with two vehicles. The car owners filed complaints. However, Maurício's parents presented themselves as the drivers, thus absolving their son of blame. Another report occurred in January 2021 when Maurício's stepmother went to a police station. She reported being threatened with a knife by her stepson. In the incident, the stepmother claimed that Maurício threatened her with violence and alleged that protective measures and police reports would not prevent him from entering the condominium where she lived and attacking her. According to her, Maurício was dangerous and reckless, having even shown the way to her house in the condominium to individuals involved in drug trafficking. This incident led to Maurício's departure from his father's house. Additionally, he was under protective measures from ex-girlfriends who were victims of domestic violence and even from an aunt. Despite presenting himself on social media as a lawyer, Maurício was not registered with the Brazilian Bar Association. As it has been made clear, all these lawsuits illustrate how problematic and disturbed Maurício was. This was the characteristic behavior of a sexual predator who also kept a record of victims of cybercrimes. He used to drug and sexually abuse his victims, recording compromising videos to later blackmail them, demanding a substantial amount of money, threatening to release the recordings on the internet. Although there is evidence of more than 7 victims in the process, the exact number is uncertain because most of them were afraid to report Maurício. The support of friends and even family was crucial for the execution of these crimes, which often took place on the family's property, where cousins and other relatives were aware of the young man's activities but protected him. After victimizing someone, Maurício posted the videos on social media and received payment to remove them, while his father contacted the victims and their families to make threats. Additionally, these intimate videos were shared between Maurício and some of his friends, all accomplices in his actions. There is a theory that Maurício did not follow a specific pattern in choosing his victims, except for the fact that they were all 23-year-old women whose names began with the letter L. Furthermore, he seemed to prefer women who were going through some difficulty or vulnerability. In Luna's case, she had an argument with her boyfriend and unfortunately ended up in Maurício's hands. Returning to Luma's case, after failing to get the money from her grandmother and fearing that more people would see the video, unfortunately, the situation became unbearable for her. On November 9, 2022, her body was found in the building where she lived after jumping from the 7th floor. When neighbors and family received the news, it was hard to believe that Luma had made the tragic decision to take her own life, given her history as a cheerful and optimistic person. However, as soon as the family learned of her death, they began receiving a series of messages from unknown people insinuating that Luma's death was not what it seemed, suggesting that there were more details behind the incident. Other messages mentioned the existence of a video of Luma circulating on social media. Shortly after, the intimate video in which Luma appeared with Maurício, clearly unconscious, came to the family's knowledge. That's when they decided to start an investigation to understand what actually happened. They went to the civil police's cybercrime department and handed over Luma's cell phone, providing reports and also audio recordings of conversations with friends dating back to the day the video was released. Through this evidence, the family discovered that Luma was receiving persistent messages from Maurício that day, pressuring her to meet at a farmhouse for a supposed family party. The truth began to surface. Initially, the case was treated as if Luma had taken her own life, but as more information emerged, other people began to report Maurício. The number of victims increased each day, surpassing the 7 who had previously given statements. Some testimonies allowed the police to trace Maurício's modus operandi, revealing his serial criminal behavior and the threat he posed. Another aspect investigated by the police was the family's involvement in the crimes. After Maurício's discovery, other victims of his sought contact with Luma's family and reported threats from both Maurício and his father. One victim who went to the police station to request protective measures against him received a threatening phone call from Maurício's father. According to Bonny Montero, Luma's father, this family seemed more like a gang than a family. He also mentioned that he did not receive any direct contact from Maurício or any member of his family. However, 2 days after Luma's death, Maurício's father began following the victim's sisters on social media, as well as the family's company networks. Due to the abundance of evidence against the man, Maurício was arrested on December 9th in Belém. During the operation, the police seized 2 cell phones. Before being arrested, Maurício posted a video mocking the justice system on his social media. Luma's death generated sadness and outrage on social media, fueling the hashtag Justice for Luma Bonny movement, which sought justice in the case and encouraged other victims of the suspect to come forward. Luma's parents made an appeal, highlighting the importance of parents getting closer to their children. They expressed this as those who recognized their own mistakes, as they failed to perceive what was happening with their daughter, something that will haunt them forever. The world is full of people who seek to take advantage of kind and innocent souls, and that is a sad reality. Maurício is currently detained, and the case remains under judicial secrecy. One very remarkable thing is that Maurício was acquitted of another rape accusation made by one of his other victims. The Pará justice issued the decision of acquittal in favor of Maurício in one of the several processes in which he faces this type of accusation. In the publicly announced verdict, Judge Sandra Maria Castelo Branco deemed the complaint presented by the Public Ministry of Pará groundless and acquitted the defendant of the charges of vulnerable rape due to lack of sufficient evidence. According to the case file, this particular case is almost identical to Luma's. In October 2018, the victim and Maurício were in his room using drugs. As per the young woman's account, after consuming narcotics, she was a victim of sexual violence. In the verdict, the judge emphasizes that both the victim's and the defendant's testimonies present significant contradictions and require solid substantiation. According to the magistrate, the accusation failed to provide sufficient evidence to securely establish that the defendant actually committed the acts alleged in the complaint. Although there are strong indications of criminal conduct, unfortunately, there is no conclusive evidence of the occurrence of the offense in this case. After the acquittal, a release order was issued in Maurício's name. However, it's important to mention that he remains in preventive detention due to other charges of crimes. For now, many people continue to pay tribute to Luma, including the cast of the movie she participated in, as well as fighters who work with her father. #Justice for Luma Bonny continues to be shared daily by internet users eagerly awaiting justice. Leave your opinion on this case in the comments, subscribe to the channel to discover more stories like this, and don't forget to leave a like. See you in the next video.